Welcome to the 2023 SheSails Conference, Pathways to Sailing. My name is Wendy Hall, and it is my absolute privilege to facilitate this conference over the next 90 minutes with you. Thank you and welcome. We all have a connection to country, and I would like to acknowledge and appreciate people's time, and I appreciate being in this space. I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet and pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. I appreciate where it is that you are from, your traditional ancestors that allow us to connect here today. There is so much going on. Our wind team just back from The Hague and getting ready for Paris not long now. And our clubs and Discover Sailing Centres really gearing up for summer season, getting more people on the water in more ways, more often. Let's take the lines off as I hand over to our President of Australian Sailing, Alistair Murray, to formally welcome us. Alistair.
Thanks very much, Wendy. I'm really looking forward to tonight's SheSails Conference. It's a year since the last one. Wendy, you said that's flown by, and it certainly has. I'm really thrilled to be part of it again because it was so good last year, and we have nearly twice as many people tuned in tonight. So welcome to everybody. It's great to see such a fantastic lineup of speakers tonight, including my good friends Carolijn, Brouwer, Olivia Price and Nick Douglas. They and all of the other speakers will be highlighting the variety of careers that women can now have in sailing, from coaching, engineering and professional racing to sail GP presenting and journalism. And as someone who has made a living out of the sailing industry himself, I can highly recommend it. It's a hell of a way to lead your life. It's a pleasure to be able to combine your sport and your hobby, your recreation with your work. I'm looking forward to hearing all the speakers tonight, especially in the year when we're celebrating Australia winning the America's Cup 40 years ago. I had the pleasure of being part of the celebrations in Perth last week, and it was just brilliant to relive that moment. It's fantastic to be hearing from Olivia Price, who is heading up the Team Australia Challenge as part of the first ever Women's America's Cup competition in Barcelona next year. More on that later. I'm also very pleased to welcome Callie and Tanya from Team Emirates New Zealand and anyone joining us from New Zealand this evening. I'm delighted to announce that the SheSails brand is going international, with Australian Sailing recently forming a partnership with Yachting New Zealand to use the SheSails brand in New Zealand. And we hope through this partnership to be working on many more joint initiatives to get more women and girls sailing on both sides of the Tasman. It's great to see that we see so many SheSails initiatives at clubs. They're really picking up and taking up. We see this through our club awards, where we see more and more activity on the SheSails front, attracting more and more women and girls to the great sport of sailing. As part of Australian Sailing's strategic commitment to achieve 50% equity by 2032, which is embedded in our strategic plan, we're slowly making an impact, having increased to 32% from 30% last year. Doesn't sound like much, but 2% a year, and you've quickly got a big head of steam up. We still know there's a long way to go to reach our target, though. We're still only 30% of coaches, 31% of instructors, and 24% of officials being women. Hopefully hearing from the speakers tonight will inspire many more women and girls to make a career in sailing. I'm also thrilled, this has got to be a first among sporting boards that administer a sport that has more male participants than females, but I'm really thrilled that our Australian Sailing Board is a higher proportion of female than male, and we've got 5 women and 4 men on our board, and I'm extremely proud of that. We also have 6 out of 7 of our state general managers are women. So we've made an enormous amount of progress. So we hope by leading the way, we can inspire more women to take up leader positions in clubs. Back to you. Thanks, Wendy, and good luck for our SheSails conference. I'm really looking forward to hearing from it. In advance of the end, though, I will just thank you, Wendy, for your chairing of this fabulous session, and I'd like to express my thanks to all of the speakers, all of whom I'm really looking forward to hearing from. Thanks very much, and back to you, Wendy.
Thank you, Alistair. What a lovely warm welcome. This year's conference is named Pathways to Sailing, as you heard, so we can immerse ourselves in the stories of incredible women who are creating the pathways for us to follow. It is a privilege to spend the next 90 odd minutes with over 435 registered groups and individuals. And I know that you're like-minded. I know that you're passionate female supporters of sailing, either Australia or New Zealand. So I know that you're also going to love the diverse stories from two inspirational Olympians, a much travelled sailor, now journalist, two mechanical engineers with a love of all things performance and speed, and a volunteer now heading up a club so that others may gain. One thing they all do have in common, though, they speak of creating the pathway, showcasing opportunities and putting the spotlight on possibilities. My hope and wish is that you come away asking what you can do to create a pathway in your own way. Or you might be inspired by a pathway that is being shown to you today, and can you follow it? We'll make the time at the end for questions for our speakers, so feel free to use the chat function. You've got a Q&A function on the webinar. You're welcome to put your chat in, your question in there, and that will get fed back to me at the end of our webinar. So if you want to stay on a little bit beyond the hour and a half, you are very welcome. Our speakers will stay on for you. So please sit back, relax, and be prepared to be enlightened and motivated. Our first guest is Carolijn Brouwer. She is no stranger to forging pathways. For those of you that know, you will know that she has made huge waves as a 3 times Olympian, 3 times Volvo Ocean Racer, World Sailor of the Year, and she's currently with our Girls Australian Sailing Team, Ilka 6 coach. Before we get to chat to her, though, I'd love to see her in action.
I think I'm probably about to start the most important race of my life, where 3 boats are on equal points and it all comes down to one leg. It's an all or nothing leg. It's a do or die leg. I think that's pretty amazing to be able to say that you're part of it and that we're actually making history.
Folks, this is it. After 45,000 miles of racing, for the first time in round the world history, 3 teams have one final 700-mile leg to go to decide who will be crowned the winner. Legends will be made in this one last dramatic sprint.
With less than 400 miles to run, the fleet split into 2 groups. To the west, Team Axo Nobel, Vestas 11th Hour Racing, Team Brunel, and Mapfre. Opting to stay close to the Danish, German, and Dutch coastlines would be Dongfeng Race Team, Turn the Tide on Plastic, and SHK Scallywag.
We've chosen a path inshore, so there's a lot of very tricky navigation. We've got all sorts of sandbanks and traffic separation schemes, and some very changeable weather. So I suspect no one's going to get any rest tonight. It's going to be a very busy night, changing sails and just navigating our way through it all.
We can sort of see something through the binoculars, but we're not entirely sure, and we've got no idea how it's going to pay out, so we're just trying to sail as fast as we can right now.
5 miles from the finish, Dongfeng Race Team finally slipped ahead of their rivals on Mapfre. The Chinese flag team led by Charles Caudrelier went on to take their first leg victory, and with it, the overall Volvo Ocean Race win.
Yeah, I don't know, I can't really realize. It's the first time I cry for a race, I think. I've been crying a lot since the finishing line, and it's the first time of my life I cry for that.
Yeah.
Wow. That would have been life-changing. You've travelled the world, you've been everywhere, Carolyn. So where are you today?
Hi, Wendy. I am on the Central Coast at home, a place called Berkeleyville.
Oh, wonderful. Now, I know that you are an idol to an enormous amount of female sailors around the world. We've been called a groundbreaker, paving the way for other women and girls. And that's certainly in that video, it certainly showed that. But I know that the Volvo series is not the only memorable moment in your life. When you look back at what you've achieved, what has been the most memorable moment for you?
Well, obviously, yeah, rewatching this video and, saying I'm about to start the probably the most important race of my life. There's no doubt that this was definitely one of the most memorable moments in my sailing career. Together with Marie and Justine, the other two female on board the Dongfeng race team. We were the first female to ever win the Volvo Ocean race. So yes, that's obviously pretty remarkable. But I think when I look back at my Olympic career and probably finishing second at the Tornado Combined World Championships back in 2007 and qualifying for the Beijing Olympic Games, as the only female skipper in the fleet is probably, I consider that quite memorable as well. And I think that has also led or probably kickstarted my career in ocean racing and given me the opportunity to be part of Team SCA, which was a breakthrough for women in ocean racing, and then eventually go on and win the race with Dongfeng race team 4 years later. I guess, being the only female in the fleet in the Tornado back then. Tornado was an open discipline, so it was open for men and women, but there was basically only men competing, and there wasn't really a fast, high performance class in the Olympics for women at the time. And so I thought, well, there's no real reason why I can't do this and have a go. And so I did.
I think that's actually terrific. The thought that no one had walked through that door meant nothing to you. It was, no, if it's open, it's open. And I can compete, and beautifully done. That was back in a time where you were performing for yourself and doing incredibly well for yourself. But now you give back. I watch your coaching of our four boats in the Australian sailing team, the Ilka 6, and I watch you getting them ready for Paris 24 now that we've qualified for the Olympics. What made you move into coaching, and what is it about coaching that keeps you there?
Well, I also turned 50 this year, which is also a pretty memorable moment, I guess.
Absolutely.
And I thought it was about time to, I guess, give back to the sport, a sport that's given me so much in my career. Don't get me wrong, I'm not done with sailing myself yet, but this was definitely a big opportunity for me to explore an area in sailing, I guess, which I didn't know much about myself. I'd done 3 Olympic campaigns, so I'd worked with coaches myself, and in the ocean racing especially, worked a lot with professional teams where we coached each other a lot. And I saw this as an opportunity to sort of, broaden, learn and grow myself in the coaching world. And it's a great group of girls, Mara, Casey, Zoe, and Elise, that I'm working with, and we're very supportive of each other. They support each other a lot, and they support me. And I guess we're learning and growing together. But it's, for me, a privilege to be on this journey with them. An Olympic campaign is a very special time in your life, and I think it's a huge opportunity for me and together to navigate not only the highs, but also the lows in the sport. And maybe the most exciting thing, I guess, is to try and create the legacy that Michael Blackburn has created with the Ilka 7 men, so the laser men, in the last few Olympic Games, winning 3 gold medals with the boys, And I believe that that potential is there with the female laser radial, the Ilka 6 squad as well. So I'm really excited about that.
Absolutely fantastic. And I can see your coaching being very technical, but I can also see it being a lot about resilience and the lessons that you've learned. What would you say is the most important character trait that stood you in good stead through this, that you can pass on to the girls?
I guess, first of all, it comes with determination and definitely hard work. I think girls or women in our sport are it's a good time for girls in our sport at the moment. There's a lot of opportunities, but I do think we still depend a little bit on opportunities that are created for us or that are given to us. But I think once that door that you spoke about yourself earlier, Wendy, once that door is open, it's up to you to go in, put in the work and put in the effort and make sure that door is open wide and they won't let you go again. And I think with that comes also there's a lot of fear for making mistakes and a fear to fail. But I think that's all actually a strong trait. I think if I can give an example myself, when I was trialing for Dongfeng race team, they were actually here as a team to compete in the Sydney to Hobart. And I sailed with them prior to the start of the Hobart. We did a couple of sessions in the harbour and went outside the heads, and we're coming in through the heads after a big day on the water. And I was on the helm. Charles, the skipper, had put me on the helm, and there was a ferry coming up the harbour, and I had to avoid it. We're under spinnaker, and the boat had a canting keel, which I'd never worked with before in my life. And so I thought, I got to move out of the way, and I arced the boat up a bit. And before I knew it, I'd put it on its side, and we broached. And my first thought then was like, well, this is my spot gone on the team for the ocean race. But I think you learn from those mistakes, and the rest of the team, and especially Charles as the skipper, he didn't just look at that. He looked at everything else that I'd done during the day, and there's a lot of positives that come out of that as well. So I think, it's looking at the things you do well, and there's plenty of good things as well. So I think it's not being afraid to go out there and make the mistakes and learn from them.
I think that's a really important thing to hear from someone who we look at and we go, wow, you've achieved so much and you've lived such an adventurous life. To hear you say that sometimes it goes wrong, but you learn from that and others see the good that you do as well. I would imagine that that was a pivotal moment for you in recognizing that, yeah, sometimes you don't get it right, but you get the learnings from that. I know that the water you're not done with the water yet. And I hear that you've taken up wing foiling. Is that right?
Yes, I'm still a complete beginner, but yes, I'm enjoying it a lot. I think wing foiling, with foiling in the last years coming up and becoming such an important part of sailing, of our sport, there's a lot of different opportunities, and wing foiling is actually something that's it's a sport, a part of the sport that's really accessible. It's, I guess, also compared to other classes, affordable, but it's also convenient and not so time consuming. I can leave the house here and drive to the beach 5 k's down the road and go wing foiling for an hour and come back, and so be from door to door in 2 hours while my son's at school, for example. So it's really a convenient sport. And once you get down to the beach, 2 years ago when I started, I was the only girl on the beach in the water, battling it out with all the guys that were learning as well, it being a recent sport, a new sport. But now when you go down to the beach, you see a lot of girls starting to try out and getting really good as well very quickly. So yeah, it being accessible, it being fun on the beach, everybody helps each other. I see now all the clubs taking it up as well. So I think it's a sport where it's very inclusive, a part of the sport that's very inclusive, and it's a lot of fun. And yeah, I am very much still in a beginner's phase, and yeah, out there making the mistakes and falling off and doing a lot of swimming with everyone else.
I can picture it, because I'm in awe when I watch this off the beach, going, wow. I'm assuming it gives you the same adrenaline hit that you'd get in your high performance racing as well. Does it feel the same, or does it, you're on your own, does it feel different?
Yes, it feels different, but I never go out by myself. I always make sure there's a buddy there, someone that's looking after you. But I don't consider it dangerous. I go out with a life jacket. I go out with a helmet, and but yeah, it's everyone's helping each other out. And the foiling, yes, it's a buzz. I love going fast, and now I'm starting to. I can do my jives, and I'm starting to do tacks, and it's just. Yeah, being a beginner and being out there learning a part of the sport that's completely new to me, you'd think that, you know, after 30 odd years in the sport, I'd be able to do pretty much everything. But no, I feel like just a rookie in this class. But every little step you make, every little gain you make is very rewarding. So yeah, nailing a jibe or nailing a tack to me is, I feel like a champion. So it's great. It's a lot of fun.
I can absolutely appreciate that. It's for me, it's really important that we look back. So particularly in your coaching role. So let's look back and across your career, if we may. What, if there was one piece of advice you would give your younger self, what would that be?
I think we've touched on it already. I think it's not to be afraid to make mistakes and to put yourself out there and to be vulnerable. Sailing is such a complex sport, but it's such a diverse sport as well. So it's basically a never-ending story. You know, I came up the ranks through the Optimist, and then I was fortunate enough to do 3 Olympic campaigns in 3 different classes. I then got into ocean racing, and I'm now coaching. So there's so many different areas of our sport to explore. And I'd say, yeah, wherever you are in the world, or whether it's your local sailing club, or it's an Olympic campaign, or you have had the opportunity to be part of SailGP or an AC campaign, it's just go out there, put in the hard work and try it. I think that's the most important part.
Wise words. Carolijn, thank you very much for spending time with us this evening. I know how busy you are getting ready for Paris, so thank you. It's been such a joy to hear your story, and know that you're still loving the water and it's still giving you new things. Please, you get to sit back and relax and enjoy the rest of the conference, because we're traveling across the water now to New Zealand, where we meet 2 members of Team Emirates New Zealand. They are incredible. So I would like to introduce Kelly Hartzell and Tanya Peart from Auckland. They've got a video they'd love you to see, which I think explains what these 2 incredible women do for the world of performance sailing. So let's watch what they are all about.
It's definitely easing off everywhere pretty quick. I guess if you want to stay with it, we could veer away and catch it for a little while. Yeah, we could do that. You guys happy to come away? Yeah, clearly. Yep, here we go. Yeah, it looks like we'll get back into it a little bit more, but it doesn't look to be into the 20s too much, I think. No, crashing to the build mate, 39. Coming. Nice. Should come quick down here. Anytime. 3, 2, 1, forward down. Getting this fast, Italy is showing up the easy right. That's my body. Okay, you can get big. Okay, 2, 1, point down. Yeah, good Pete.
Wow. You have, both of you, the coolest job. Kelly, if I might speak to you first, if I may. Your role as Mechatronics engineer for Team Emirates New Zealand sounds really technical, but very cool. Talk us through what you do. What is your day job?
Yeah, well, first off, thanks for having us. We're really excited to be here. Yeah, being a mechatronics engineer is quite technical and very exciting. I thought maybe I would start by just kind of walking you through how I got here, because obviously mechanical engineering is quite different from mechatronics engineering. Hopefully the slides are working. Great. So for me, I graduated in 2014 with a degree in mechanical engineering from Northwestern University. You can probably tell by my accent that I'm not really from this part of the world. But after graduating, I actually went to go work for Ford Motor Company, where I did quite a few different roles in their graduate engineering program. And I ended up doing a lot of work in the all-wheel drive group, which was kind of my first taste of understanding, you know, how software and hardware can work together to make some really cool things happen. That's also where I learned to start sailing, or I started learning how to sail. So I found it kind of in my adult life. My partner and I then decided to move over here to New Zealand in 2019, kind of with no plan. You know, I knew I really liked sailing. I knew I really liked engineering, and was just kind of ready for something different. So we kind of just took the leap and decided to go for it. We actually were living out of a van while I found the job posting for Team New Zealand. And, you know, reading through it, I thought, oh, wow, this seems like really the perfect job for me, getting to mix, you know, sailing, which I think is really cool, I really love doing, and all of my engineering skills into one role. I didn't really think I had very much of a chance when I first applied for the role. Obviously, Team New Zealand is quite a prestigious team, and, you know, here am I, this small little American girl. But I applied anyway and kind of trusted myself through the whole process. You know, really thought I had failed my interview, but clearly something clicked. And this is now my second campaign with the team, working kind of in that sensors data acquisition type of role. And just a little bit about what that involves. There's kind of a lot that falls under the mechatronics umbrella, especially with these big foiling boats. A lot of it is how well you can get the software and the hardware to work together to really make the controls easy for the sailors, because pretty much everything is done through our software and through these human-machine interfaces. So there's a lot on this slide. Pretty much what I'm doing is working on sensors on board so that we can understand what's happening in the boat. We can get feedback to our sailors so that they understand you know, what's going on with the boat, what their inputs are doing, where they might need to make adjustments. But there's a lot that goes on in mechatronics that we can touch on later if you're curious. But that's enough about me. I'm going to let Tanya talk a little bit because she's ended up in quite a different place, starting from the same degree.
Fantastic. Yeah, so again, yeah, thank you for having us. It's a real pleasure to be able to be part of this kind of New Zealand-Australia conference collaboration. Yeah, so I guess started sailing on keelboats when I was quite young, but started racing dinghies, so Optimus, when I was 10, and kind of continued that through till the end of high school and ended up on keelboats. I never, like at the end of in year 13, the final year of high school here, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I knew that it would be something kind of science related because I really enjoyed finding out how things worked, kind of understanding, yeah, things in the world. And I was really fortunate to be able to do a yacht race, Auckland to Fiji race. And after that, kind of stumbled upon engineering somewhat accidentally as I was trying to find what careers might kind of get me back on an offshore yacht. Not that that is kind of where I ended up going, but I stumbled upon engineering and I'd never really looked into it before. I just thought civil engineering, like bridges, roads. I'm really glad that people are interested in it, but that's not for me. And it made me start researching it and discovered that there were all of these really interesting specializations: electrical, mechanical, chemical materials. And I knew that I didn't know which area I wanted to go into, but I knew that something in engineering would be for me. I think I was quite fortunate in a way that as much as I really enjoyed sailing, and I still really enjoy it, I was never anywhere close to being good enough to kind of have to decide between being a professional sailor and kind of pursuing another career. So that kind of choice was relatively simple. So I ended up specializing in mechanical engineering. For me, it was kind of most similar to yacht design. I discovered that a lot of yacht design is engineering in some form. You've got the composite materials, the fluid dynamics side, which is where I've ended up, all of the drivetrain and lots of different parts of the yacht are engineering related. And I was very fortunate that in my final year of my degree, I got a project doing wind tunnel testing of some symmetric spinnaker sails, which you can see a photo of there, and also doing computer modeling of the sails, and that directly led to my PhD project, which also was looking at kind of sail performance. And during my PhD, I got involved with a university group designing and building a moth yacht, and that kind of put me in touch with Team New Zealand, somewhat informally, just we were using some of their software. And then 2 years into my PhD, I guess I had a somewhat similar journey to Kelly, where I saw a job advert at Team New Zealand and for a fluid dynamics engineer. I wasn't looking for a job. I was 2 years into my PhD. I had at least another year to go. But I thought I didn't meet all the requirements either. I didn't have quite enough work experience, but well, it's my dream job. I kind of have to apply. Didn't think I had any chance of getting it, but you never know what they're looking for. So here we are, managed to finish my PhD and work as a fluid dynamics engineer. So a little bit more detail on what that means. Fluid dynamics, at least in the team, is primarily divided into aerodynamics, flow of air around the sails and hull, and hydrodynamics, which is more the foils and the hull when it's in the water, the boat's not foiling. So in my job, I kind of answer questions like what happens if we trim the sails different ways? When do we need to switch between sails? I create models that the sailors use in the simulator to help practice sail the boat. The foil designers mainly look at the effects of different foil design changes on the boat's performance. And then the hull design is kind of a crossover between the two, where you're trading off aerodynamic and hydrodynamic performance. That's a bit about what we do.
That's incredible. Absolutely incredible. I just imagine what a wonderful support you are to the athletes. Gone are the days where they're working off gut and working off feel. Everything's data, everything's statistics to aid performance. Hearing both of your stories, there's a pattern there of walking through and taking risks. Both of you said didn't have enough for the job advert, didn't think there was much chance of getting it, but gave it a good go. So if you were to talk to your high school self now, and there is no doubt some high school age girls listening in on this conference today, what would you tell them? What would you say to them?
I go first. Sure. I think in terms of, advice to my 17-year-old self, I think that I really, wish I had the confidence to be able to pursue more, opportunities and really, believe in my goals. I mean, I since I was younger, I thought I'd be really cool to work for Team New Zealand, but I never really thought it was possible, at least this kind of early on in my career. I thought, maybe I'll get there kind of one day. But I think something that I'm really grateful to my 17-year-old self for, and I think is kind of advice I would give a 17-year-old is particularly when I didn't know what I wanted to do, I think I did quite a good job of keeping my options open. So I took all the science and math subjects at school, which meant that when I did find what I wanted to do, say engineering, I actually had the prerequisites and I could go and follow what I wanted to do. And kind of the same with aerodynamics. In my PhD, I guess, once I kind of focused on yacht designs, I guess there are a few other areas, you can apply mechanical engineering to and aerodynamics to. And I kind of decided, I guess, on the career I wanted. It was such a cool feeling to kind of discover that I actually had the required knowledge for what I wanted to do because I had kind of done a reasonable job of, keeping things open as I gone along.
Yeah, that sounds really good advice. You know what you like to do, keep your options open because you just don't know. Ellie, for you, what advice would you give your high school self?
Yeah, it would be very similar, to a lot of the things that have been said. Leave yourself open to opportunities. Really don't be afraid of doing the hard things because that's usually where you get to do the most interesting things. There have been so many times in this job where I've had absolutely no idea or felt like I had no idea what I was doing. And it's just the best feeling in the world to be able to figure it out and be able to contribute, positively towards the overall team goal. It's a really cool feeling. So don't be afraid of doing the hard things. And also, don't feel like you have to do what is expected of you. I think a lot of the opportunities that have come my way are things that have come up because, I did what was right for me. And I did, what I thought was interesting, not necessarily what, I thought I was supposed to be doing. 'Cause if I'd done that, I probably would still be, working on my 30-year career at Ford, which if what you want to do, if that's what you want to do, that's great. But just leave yourself open to possibilities and really just don't be afraid of doing the hard things.
Sound advice. What we would commonly call a growth mindset. Don't be afraid of the hard work and don't be afraid of the learning. Love it. You've shown us tonight a very different side of sailing. You've shown us how you combine your love of sailing, albeit late, Kelly, for you, to sailing, but that love of being on the water and your technical skill. So thank you for showing us a totally different pathway. It has been wonderful to connect with New Zealand. You're going to see an awful lot more of SheSails extending to New Zealand. So we'll be doing a lot more cross-promoting events, and we hope to see some Australian sailors head to New Zealand events and watch New Zealand sailors come to Australia. So watch out for that in the coming months. Thank you, Tanya. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you so much.
Our next speaker comes from the world of club sailing. So we head to beautiful Victoria to welcome Michelle de Blaquiere, head of Blairgowrie Yacht Squadron. Did I get that right, Michelle?
Yes, you did. Well, Blairgowrie Yacht Squadron, well done, Wendy. It is quite a mouthful. Can I just say, I am just super honoured to be here tonight alongside such amazing women. So it's really such an, great to be part of this. Thank you.
We're in very good company, aren't we?
We are.
I feel the same. Michelle, I'm so mindful, and I have to say, I love, if anyone ever rings Michelle, she's got the best answering machine message I've ever heard. It talks about what she does. I could be here, I could be on the water, I could be getting ready for a SheSails event, I could be doing this, so please leave me a message. I loved that. And it really speaks to the many, many roles that you have as the head of sailing. If I think about it, you're responsible for training at the club, the instructors, the volunteers. I know that you began your life as a membership service officer. You're a volunteer with Mount Martha because you've got loads of spare time as a mum as well. And I'm conscious
it's pretty safe to say sailing's life, isn't it?
It is. It is. I can see that your whole world is sailing, and I love that. I can see that you've created a lot of activity with at the Yacht Squadron as well, with the SheSails training pathways, the SheSails women's sports 2-day regattas and loads of events. How did this all start? Tell us about how you went how you got into volunteering to start with, and then how did you end up as the head of sailing?
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, volunteering is a really big thing for me. I grew up dinghy sailing as a child and into my young adulthood, and then had a big break from sailing, having kids. Finally, one day I said, that's it, it's enough. I'm going to buy a boat and go out on the water. I need to be out there. So, promptly rocked up at my local sailing club, introduced myself, rigged up, and went out to the start line. Yeah, and so instantly my love for being out sailing was back. Of course, being part of a yacht club means contributing and sharing your skills and sharing what you've got, whether it's knowledge or expertise. So for me, it was really important to help out. It was really funny to see that all of a sudden people were interested in your ideas or opinions. They'd be asking you, what do you think of this racing? What do you think we should be doing? So, I had a little bit of arm twisting, but not too much. And before I knew it, not only was I being a regular club sailor, but I was a flag officer and I was leading the sailing committee, and we were overhauling the race program. And so club days were very busy. You'd arrive at the club and be chatting. I think the biggest part of the day is all the talking you do, talking to all of the different members, talking to all of your volunteers, getting everybody all revved up and excited about the day, and also trying to cram in quickly rigging your boat as well. So it's no good when you're organising everybody and then you're still the last to the start line. So so I think seeing what you can share with your club's really important, especially if you're really passionate about sailing. So, or you might have different skills that you can share. I love to get involved in the racing program and, what courses we were setting and how we were training our volunteers, but maybe other women might have different skills that they can share at their club. But I guess that kind of kick-started me on the way to taking on some leadership roles within my local club. Yeah.
So a very different world from volunteering. You rock up and you do your part and love what you do, and then you go home. But for you, that's not the case now with the sailing administration and the leadership component. So talk us through the day. Talk us what it is that you do. You were talking about your opinion and your voice being heard. So tell us what that sounds like.
Yeah, so I probably never imagined I would work in the sailing industry, or that this would be the sort, yes, it's my hobby, but I didn't imagine I would be working here. Somewhere along the line, I ended up seeing a role advertised at Blairgowrie looking after membership, and I sort of thought, oh, you know what? Why not? These are all of the things that I really enjoy. I really enjoy talking to people. I really enjoy sharing their experience. I really enjoy hearing about their racing. So, I sort of thought, oh, yeah, I'll give it a go. And that role was really fun, but it sort of didn't take me long to be thinking, oh, probably up in the sailing office is where I'd like to be. I think it's really great within the sailing community that actually I found everybody to be super supportive. So, that might be other volunteers within your club who are happy to share their experience and knowledge about the local area or share ideas. I've lost my train of thought there.
That's okay. It's easily done when there's so much going on. So you were talking about wanting to be, in that sailing office. And I can understand that, because that's when you get to put all your ideas into programs, you get to support the instructors and the assistants. So tell me, what is coming out of Blairgowrie in terms of SheSails initiatives at the moment? What have you been up to?
So the SheSails is really fun and exciting part of the club. We've got quite a strong Discover Sailing Centre, and we run SheSails variants for all of our courses, as lots of the clubs do that. Across keelboat sailing and dinghy sailing, and we also do some powerboat handling courses for females as well. You don't have to do the SheSails varieties of the courses, but if you would like to learn in an environment where you're sort of championed by other females, that's a really great opportunity. I think, though, it doesn't really just stop there. We've had so many women who particularly have been keen to try keelboat crewing and have signed up enthusiastically and done their course and said, yes, what's next? And so I think wherever you are on the sailing journey, we always know that time on water is really important. And, there's still always that bit of bottleneck between, okay, these women are excited and enthusiastic and they're doing these learn to sail courses, but how do we get them all the way through the pipeline, to be, whether it's regular crew on keelboats or whatever they're interested in doing. So this season, we're going to trial a new initiative where we're going to be using some of our club boats. Women can sign up to be part of a team for a regular period of time. So we're really hoping to bridge that gap between, we've done our initial learn to sail time, now we need to bank some hours on the water. I think it's also really important to keep all the social connections as well. Our SheSails working group team have started up a few social initiatives over the last season. They have she sips and they like to, have a good yak as well. I think being connected to other people is really important. It's also really great to just make sure that females are supported wherever they are in the club. So it doesn't have to be a SheSails branded event. It's really important to have women on your committee. So we have females on our sailing committee and other committees, females, as instructors and coaches, females in our race management team as well. Not enough, we would still love more, but making sure that people have the opportunity to take on all of these roles. There's lots of training available. There's lots of people to support everybody and encourage you along the way. And I think, and I felt this myself in my journey, you don't actually have to be an expert at everything before you do it. We're never an expert at something before we do it. We have to learn along the way. And I guess what I've found is that whatever knowledge you do have, people do value that. And the areas that you're not quite up to speed, I've found that there are always people around who are willing to give you a hand as well. I've never had anybody sort of, not be supportive. Everybody's actually just keen. If you are enthusiastic and keen, they just want you to be a part of sailing.
Michelle, I think that's really sound advice. And I love what you say about you don't have to be confident to step in and say, I want to do this, because you just described beautifully the structure and the systems that says if you come with nothing, we'll take you there. We'll encourage you to be an assistant instructor, move you into support instructors and whatever you desire to be. So I'm really curious to know, what is the one thing that you think clubs or SheSails representatives might do just to, as you said, we need a little bit more. We don't quite have enough women in these roles. So what's the one thing we should or could be doing?
For me, I think it's just something really simple and basic, the foundations of championing each other. So, gather the women around you, listen to them, hear them, cheer on their success. And that success might be that they, managed to get off the beach that day. We're not all going to be world champions. So whatever everybody's individual successes are, let's cheer them along. There's enough kind of negativity in the world. Let's cast that off and, just support each other. And actually, if you have support of everyone, we can do anything.
Oh, that is a wonderful way to end your presentation. Michelle, thank you. I feel, as a club member, I feel very much like you, is that, we do need to come together. We do need to support each other and just have fun and celebrate those small wins, like docking without trouble or launching without grief from the beach. So I love it's the simple things that keep us having fun.
Exactly.
And I love that you are right in support of women wanting to take those leadership roles or take that step from volunteering to something more, to a part-time or a full-time role. Thank you. It has been wonderful to hear from you. Wonderful to hear what your club has been up to. Our next speaker is no stranger to the world of media. Nick should probably be sat where I'm sat, so I am thoroughly looking forward to this. She is known as the Sailor Girl journalist. She is a media and TV commentator for Sail GP and so much more. Welcome, Nick, to our SheSails conference. How does it feel to be on that side? Mute. This is where I get to say, Nick, you're on mute.
Well, the thing is, I'm actually kind of partially muted anyway, so I definitely couldn't do your role today, Wendy, that's for sure. I'm very tired. My voice is exhausted, but I'm going to push through this, and I hope that you'll all be patient with me. I'm sorry about that.
Oh,
yeah.
And I know that you've just come from Ladies of the Sea Regatta, and I know when I caught up with you earlier, you were transiting at 6 in the morning to the Sails Paradise event. So where are you today? I hope you're home, but where are you?
I am home. I'm in the beautiful town of Milton, which is on the south coast. It's where I live. Here, I'll show you. I think I can my lovely little office. I'll unblur it for you. It's I've stopped my video. Good job. I'm in my lovely office. You can see a few pictures around here, but very different to where I might normally be, which was an airport yesterday, this morning, Ladies of the Sea Regatta on the weekend, which was super exciting. And yeah, I'm just so lucky that I get to see so many different people at so many different regattas, and I've ended up on a pathway. I mean, speaking about pathways, and I guess that's where we could pick up my slides. My gosh, my voice is terrible.
Love you to hear and see your world while you take a sip of honey lemon. I would love to hear and see your world as a journalist. So
well,
over to you.
Thank you so much. But to start off with, the most common question I now get is, do you actually know how to sail? Because I've shifted so far into this media world that everyone says to me, do you know how to sail? So this is a picture of me in my dad's laser out the front of his house. And you might see the name of the laser is Bigot, because he got beaten by a girl and he never thought that would happen in a full rig laser. And he actually named his boat Bigot. So I thought that was actually quite timely. But I thought I'd run you through like the main 4 pathways that I have. So I come from a regional area. I'm home in Milton at the moment. Then I had an Olympic pathway, which wasn't successful. So I'm one of those people that's not necessarily successful in that way, which actually pushed me to the media career, which is super exciting. And then the mentoring side of things now. And hey, I just did my regional judge exam as well. So maybe I'll have another pathway in this sport as well. So super exciting. So the regional pathway, I said to Dad the other night, do you have any pictures of me when I was little? And he said, no, but I've got this folder. And he pulled out this folder, and apparently this is my TL1 folder, the first page from my TL1, which is dated 1991, I think. So I don't even remember doing TL1, so apparently I did, and he's very proud about that. But I think the main thing for me from the yacht club that I grew up in was there was only a men's toilet. So literally this is the way that I grew up, even though I'm 38 now. You know, I was the girl, I was the girly. My name became Sailor Girl because I was the only girl. And my dad made me a laminated WO. And I used to pull a chair across to the men's sign and get this laminated WO and put it in front of the men's to say women's when I was going to the toilet as a, 7 or 8 year old girl. So eventually I got a toilet. I never got a shower. But I didn't even realize there was anything bad with that. It's the funny thing. It wasn't until later in my career that I actually went, well, hang on a minute, there should be women in this as well. So from there, though, I was supremely lucky, and this is why I'm such good friends with Al Murray, because what I ended up doing was sailing the Taser with my dad for a very long time. And here are a few pictures of us at our peak, and we managed to win three worlds together as in an open class. So, and I'm very proud of that. I think the first worlds we won was in 2005, and there are 131 boats on the start line. So the Taser class especially has always supported women, and so I think that's why it's a pretty special class to me. Now you might recognise a few people in the picture on the right, which was the women's match racing program leading into 2012 Olympics, which I was a part of. Before that, I was in a Yingling. That didn't go well for me either. So I took the opportunity as soon as I could to jump into match racing, and I was in that crossover period to start with. But the bottom left, Olivia Price is in that photo, Katie Speedhill, Stacey Jackson, and so the top shots are when we won Kiel, which was the first women's match racing Olympic event with Nina, Katie, and I, which was pretty special. So I wasn't not lucky enough. Sorry, I've got to stop using the word lucky because I say I'm lucky all the time. I wasn't fortunate enough to be selected among those who went to represent our country, but Liv, Nina, and Lucinda went on to win a silver, and I was part of their team for as long as I could be, and I still am, and I'm hoping to back them up with the Team Australia Challenge now as well. So my Olympic dreams didn't happen for me, but everyone has spoken about tonight their failures, and I think that's why I wanted to pull up this slide, because everyone always sees like this peak of the iceberg, which is the wins and us doing well and all that sort of stuff. But Carolyn has battled so many things, and I was there when she came second with an all-female team in the Hobart on IRC by about this much, and but that was still a win. It just wasn't the win that she was looking for. And we've all had little obstacles in our career, and for me, the failure of not making the Olympics actually made me go, hang on a minute, I maybe want to do this as a career, and I want to change it. Because after that Olympics, when Liv, Lucinda, and Nina won silver, Tommy won gold, Nathan and Goobs won gold, Matt and Mal won gold, Lisa, Tesh, and Dan won gold in Paralympics, and Maddie Bug won a bronze. I was like, why are these sailors not heroes? They should really be heroes. And it was so frustrating to me because they were my heroes. I knew how hard it was to get there and that I wasn't good enough. And that failure actually got the brain thinking, like, how can I change this? So my media training and career very quickly changed. And it's probably one of the best moments in my life now, looking back, not making that Olympic team, because I probably would have worked in corporate comms for my whole life. So, your losses can be your biggest wins. And so this is a picture of me watching my dad training in lasers, and a picture of me now taking photos of my dad racing a laser. So, it's quite cool how maybe that pathway was there for me all along, but it appeared because of a time in my life that almost killed me, to be quite frank. So I guess we'll have a little bit of a look at what I do now.
This is Nick Douglas for Adventures of a Sailor Girl at the beautiful Vidala Palace in Alicante, in San Francisco. I'm in Newport with Nick Dana. This is Nick Douglas for Cows Week 2019. We are out on Sydney Harbour. The easterly has just filled in.
The 71st Brisbane to Gladstone Yacht Race being streamed live to the universe. Joining me in commentary this morning, accomplished yachtswoman, multiple-time national champion and sailing social media queen. Nick Douglas, welcome.
Thank you so much, Grant. Great to be back.
Great to have you along.
Day 2 of the Invictus Games, and who better to have with us? Nick, what are we in for today?
I think it's going to be a fantastic day to see sailing make its debut at the Invictus Games.
Oh my gosh, they go across the finish line though. You indicated to your dad, who's actually off camera at the moment, but you sail with him.
Yeah, sailed with my dad, which is really nice because he sailed with his dad.
You went sailing yesterday. How did you go?
Good.
What was your result?
What's the result?
Bills have to look like this, be like that, but when you're at sea, you don't have to wash, you don't have to dress properly, you don't have to do your hair. Sounds like being in lockdown.
I love it. I mean, seriously, I have washed my hair for you for the first time in a very long time.
Hometown effectively as a team is pretty amazing.
I think the big thing for me is really about creating opportunities. It's a difficult sport to get into for young girls to have that vision and know that they can do it.
This is Nick Douglas for Adventures of a Sailor Girl on the dock at Hamilton Island Yacht Club, keeping you covered for your 75th anniversary of the Rolex Sydney Hobart.
You know, I'm a paraplegic, use a wheelchair, and just being on the boat is really cool. Like, all the people walking up and down the dock here would have no idea.
That when you're running an awareness campaign such as Ocean Respect Racing, there's so much more than just going sailing, as you said.
Yeah, well, luckily the job list for the boat is getting shorter, but the job list for educating and bringing awareness about sustainability, that's long and that will never get shorter. We need to just keep working at that.
This morning we've been helping out with a little clean-up organised by the Volvo Ocean Race, and you'd be surprised how much garbage. Now, sustainability is your thing. Tell me a little bit about what the SailGP is doing.
We're doing it across the organisation, so both at a business level, so within our offices, trying to reduce our single-use plastic use, also trying to use renewable energy source.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you very much. And what you're doing is terrific for the sport and terrific for sailing. And as I said at the start of this interview, you know, this whole online thing is just a game changer. So I think it's really, really exciting.
Good to be out here with you. This is Nick Douglas for Adventures of a Sailor Girl. Stay tuned. I've got plenty more adventures coming your way. See you soon.
I know.
Yes.
And how incredible. Just looking back at that, it just, it was summed up so beautifully in the video around showcasing and putting a spotlight on sailing for women. What has been your most proud moment in respect of doing that spotlight?
Oh gosh, that's a really hard one. And that was all pre-COVID as well. So that show reel was pre-COVID. So, well, during COVID actually, because I started doing a lot of online TV shows with JB and Tracy Edwards and Kay Cotty. And you know what? I think actually some of those moments are my most proud because the world shut down. We had no idea what we were going to do. And the first week that I didn't know what to do, we put a mirror in the pool and started a weekly online show. And the next week I had Jesus Renato because we were meant to be at Princessa Sophia. The next week I had Stacey Jackson. And the next week I had JB. The next week I had Kay Cotty, then Jess Watson. And, you know, it was so cool over COVID to be able to be like, okay, online technology is going to help now even more so. I'd already started going that way, but it accelerated, which was so cool. But I think going to the Tokyo Olympics during COVID was my proudest moment because I'd always tried to get there. And instead of getting there as an athlete, I got there as the venue host. And the first person I saw when I arrived was Victor Kovalenko. And he spotted me even though we were fully masked up. And he was like, Nicole, you have made it. And yeah, that was pretty special.
Big moments, really big moments.
100%.
I also heard in the video that this is not where you're going to be forever. There's plenty more adventures coming. So tell me what's next for you.
Oh yeah, and I will correct you just on your intro. Lisa Darmanin is the amazing on TV reporter for SailGP. My job title is far cooler. It's Global Adrenaline Lounge host. So no, so I'm doing that.
Happily corrected.
No, I'm doing that. I'm also helping the Team Australia Challenge as much as I can. I'm running the sailing content for Hamilton Island, also for Festival Sails. I was at Sail Paradise. I was helping with Ladies of the Sea. What else do? I do my own stuff with Hobart. I've got a rib coming, which is going to be purpose-built for coaching and collecting content, which is super cool. And thank you to a bunch of people for helping me with that. But I've been really lucky as well this year. I'll show you a few of what's been happening with the mentoring side of things as well, which sort of came about because I became a Magenta project mentor This is Maddie Lyons. She discovered sailing during COVID, had never sailed before, sailing family, sailing brother, sailing dad, and she did her first Hobart last year. She sailed on a 69F in August, at Garda. She went to Foiling Week. Her pathway has just been like this on a rocket ship. So I'm pretty proud of her, but she helped me to run a Hobart meetup. We had all of the women that wanted to come that had attended the Hobart got together, and we're in the one room and got to talk to each other. We gave awards to anybody who had done their first Hobart, their 10th, their 20th, their 25th, their 30th, just the women, because I think the first Hobart is just as important in a lot of ways as the 10th, and I haven't even done one. So, that was pretty special. We did a similar thing at we did a similar thing at the Festival of Sails, and I know I'm running out of time, so I'll be as quick as I can. But Festival of Sails, we dedicated a day to women. The Sydney International Boat Show, we had Kathy Veal, who was one of the first two-handed women to go to Hobart, Lisa Blair, Sarah Davis, who paddled the Nile, Michelle Lee, who has paddled the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans non-stop solo unassisted, and Sarah Kenny, our amazing Vice President of World Sailing, which was amazing. So much chat about pathways and not being afraid to compete beyond your value as well in business and in sport, which was super cool. And I think the best moment of this year was having an event at Hamilton Island that was after sailing for women. And this was the panel there, which was Katie Spithill, Jess Watson and Stacey Jackson. And that was pretty special. So that's where we're headed, which is cool.
I can fully now understand how you manage at the end of the week to lose your voice. The energy is infectious. I absolutely love it. And what you've showcased for us is, and we've seen this as a theme running through today's conference, is that there are so many more things you can do which support sailing, which showcase sailing, that really allow people visibility of what we do. And journalism, social media, your amazing commentary does that. So please keep doing that. Please keep bringing the energy to our beautiful sport. Thank you. Rest that voice. You've earned it. More honey and lemon coming your way.
Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure. We get to now, unfortunately, hear from our last guest speaker. I'm just wondering where the time's gone. Olivia, I know you've been incredibly patient. Thank you. She needs no introduction. She's literally been centre stage, and I know there's a lot more to come. At the beginning of this conference, Alistair mentioned that we are 40 years since Australia won the America's Cup, and we're now entering a women's team headed up by our next speaker, Olivia Price. Olivia's back from her triumphant bronze medal in the Allianz World Championships in The Hague. She's the youngest sailor to win a silver medal at the Olympics in London in 2012, and is currently campaigning with Evie Hesseldine in the FX for our next Olympics in Paris. And I know that is going to arrive way before we know it. We've got very little time left. So let's see footage, please, of Olivia's adventures. Thank you, Olivia, for your patience, and incredible. I look at what you've achieved, and congratulations, bronze medal. How must that feel? Because you would have worked incredibly hard for that. How does it feel?
Yeah, to be honest, it was an incredible week for us at The Hague for the World Championships. And to be honest, we certainly didn't go into the event thinking that we were going to be on the podium. But
for us, I guess we just kept our head down and tried to put our best performance goal, not a results goal. There was a little bit of pressure in that in trying to qualify Australia for the games. We don't automatically get a selection, so as a country, so the top 10 nations get their ticket to Paris, and we were stoked to get that once we got the medal race. And to be honest, we didn't even realize that we were sitting in the top 3 at the end of each day of racing. I think we were pretty proud of that once we looked back, but at the time we had no idea. We just basically kept our head down and just kept working.
Fantastic. So we're getting ready for Paris, as you say. What does that mean for you? What does that look like?
Yeah, look, it's not far away now. It's less than 300 days. So it definitely means getting a hustle on, that's for sure. So, an Olympic campaign with 4 years is tough. But, this one was cut a little bit short thanks to COVID. And I actually took 5 years out of the sport and only stepped back in just under 20 months ago or so. So, for me, it's really about trying to find some consistency in our performance. We've been scratching at that top 10 earlier this season and just missed out on medal races by 1 or 2 individual points. And when you think about a regatta, points are sprayed everywhere, and for us just to miss out on that kind of key thing for us, just really put fire in our bellies to keep going. And I think that's where the next gains are going to be made, is really trying to replicate our good processes and good frameworks, and then really learn from what we kind of got exposed in at the World Championships, and not leaving anything to chance. So really we in Olympic sailing, we work really well to structure and frameworks. We deal with a sport of variables. So, why not try and remove them as much as possible, and really find that structure in our processes and just refine them over the next coming months, so that when it comes to July, August next year, we are ready and raring.
I can hear a whole team sitting behind you.
Yeah, it definitely takes, a collective of people to bring out a good performance in any individual athlete. And, it's been an incredible ride so far, with the Australian sailing team stepping back in over the last 2 years and working with a new team. Evie Hazeldine is 11 years younger than I am. I'm now the veteran. I used to be the youngest. So, it comes with a whole bunch of different responsibilities, but also a whole lot of opportunities as well in trying to help shape some of the younger athletes, especially in our squad. There are a number of young FX sailors coming up through the ranks. So for me, that's just super enthusiastic and exciting to be a part of their journey as well.
And I know that they give you the impetus, they give you the motivation when you go out and play, don't they?
Absolutely. Our squad environment is extremely competitive, but also very respectful. So, it's a great dynamic at the moment, and credit to our coach, Victor Paya, for really bringing that level of competitiveness, but also, everyone in the squad for sticking to it.
Fantastic. You mentioned just a moment ago that you stepped away from sailing, but we lured you back. What brought you back?
Look, there are a couple of reasons why I stepped away first, and I think I really needed to find my why. I didn't get selected for the Rio Olympics in 2016, and I, stepped out and finished uni and did, worked in marketing and kind of kept my eye on sailing, but actually didn't do any sailing myself. I built a junior program at a local school here for girls, and really helped, kind of see what the grassroots is looking like at the moment, and the future is very bright. But what I did see was, having the visibility of mentors that are readily accessible for young female sailors in particular, especially going through teenage years where we do see a big drop off. It gives them, the ability to ask questions and stay motivated and, really see the tangible kind of results of having a squad environment and things like that. So stepping on from that, Evie actually initially approached me to be her mentor. I wasn't thinking of getting back into sailing at the time, but You know, I saw in her a little bit of myself, and someone who really wanted to work hard and had the right energy. And if you come across Evie Hazelden in your travels, you'll know that you'll just catch her enthusiasm. And so I kind of caught the bug and jumped back on an FX, you know, in order to help her. And to me, everything just seemed so natural. You know, there was going to be a lot of work, but it was going to be a great challenge for me to shift my mindset from, you know, the last time I went sailing was probably not as leadership driven as I needed to be. And so, you know, having a second chance at that, and another bite at the apple, and kind of, you know, prove to myself that I was willing to do it, you know, whether it was going to be a successful campaign or not. You know, I wanted to step back in because I loved the sport, and I was at that stage where I loved it more than I ever have. And so, you know, for me, it's actually super rewarding being part of, you know, developing some of the younger athletes coming through, and yeah, being, I guess, the grandma or the mum that they call me on to.
Oh, that's funny. I can certainly appreciate the different perspective that you have now to the campaign than you would have had when you were much younger. And that's hugely valuable in that mentoring role. So you have seen a lot of changes over the last 10 years. What has been the biggest thing that you've observed, and what do you think the next 10 years might look like for us?
Yeah, I think, you know, sailing has gone through a fantastic transformation in the last 10 years. You know, I first started Olympic sailing when I was 16, and I was quite a young one, just wanting to have a learning attitude, you know, left kind of the competitive side to some of the older ones. But what I found in my attitude, I was able to continue learning and, you know, work smarter, not harder. And so I think that in itself is kind of where the sport is going in terms of working smarter, not harder. But, you know, Carolyn said it really well earlier in the conference, in that, you know, doors are being opened kind of mandatorily for women, you know, great quotas and you know, opportunities that are being provided in women's events and things like that. But it's up to us to really blow those doors open and keep running through all the cracks in the windows and all those sorts of things. Because if we don't do that, you know, we're not actually taking advantage of the opportunities that are coming our way. You know, I think we're at a point now where there are the same medal availabilities in Olympic sailing for men and women. So that's one of the first sports to be able to do that in sailing. And this will be the first time for Paris that will have happened. So we've had, yeah, it's quite an interesting and exciting Olympics to potentially be a part of for me, because it's going to be history making in any way you look at it. So there are the same medals available for both men and women in sailing. And we're seeing, you know, those the fast boats and the foiling opportunities, and you know, the way that the sport is going is going to continue down that pathway where high performance continues to be at the forefront of everyone's mind when it comes to Olympic sailing and you know, the opportunities that branch on from that. So I would love to be able to see those quotas disappear, and we actually just talk about you know, sailing as a whole, and women's being 50% of that, if not more. So you know, I think it's up to us to actually take up those opportunities, and when the door does open, jump through it, because otherwise, you know, my dad always said to me, opportunity only knocks lightly, and you know, if you don't take it, it will pass you by. So it's something that I've always kept in the back of my mind is, okay, where's the next kind of thing for me to better myself, not based on results, but just actually what can I do to make sure that I'm, you know, doing my best at anything I put my mind to. So I really hope that those, you know, the next 10 years is something that we can look back at and go, okay, we did our bit, and we're actually dominating in terms of genders.
Yeah, that's a really insightful thought. We have the opportunity, absolutely, to do that. And that was really interesting to hear what you were talking about in respect of medals and in Paris. I know that's not the only pathway that you are surging or creating for young women. Please talk to me about the high performance pathway that you've got in mind around the Team Australia Challenge campaign. Something to do with racing under the Australian flag?
Oh, something I'm so passionate about. I think, the Team Australia campaign in terms of the Women's America's Cup, the first Women's America's Cup, is exciting in itself. It was an opportunity that I kind of put in the back of my mind because I didn't think we were going to be able to fit it in. But looking at the schedules and doing a bit more of my homework, I knew this is something I couldn't say no to. So for me, I jumped on board when, I was probably one of the first in Australia to kind of jump on board for this campaign and really feel like it's like a project of mine to continue. So the Team Australia campaign is not just about this Women's America's Cup and Women's and Youth America's Cup next year. It's also about creating a legacy and a pathway for high performance sailing. We see a lot, Nick spoke about it earlier, being part of the Magenta Mentoring Project. And that's a global project that has taken leaps and bounds for women in sailing and in all aspects of sailing. But something I'm also passionate about is racing under the Australian flag. We see so many incredible Australian yachts people sailing for other flags, and it's just not right. It's un-Australian. So, something I really hope to be able to create in the future is actually a pathway where high performance sailing can be racing under the Australian flag and having this team of incredible athletes racing together under the Australian flag, but not just in, foiling craft. There can be, endless high performance tours around the world that we are kind of missing that opportunity for. And for me, this is a pathway into that team and actually capturing all the grassroots levels and being that vision to be able to see that there are ways forward, not just in the Olympic pathways and not just in America's Cup pathways, but also in yacht racing around the world, that you might be able to gain experience, professionalism, learn what it is to be in part of a professional team, create that kind of academy vibe around being able to give sailors that opportunity to actually go and compete together. So that's where my dream and vision kind of sits. Funding will only allow so much of that in the short term, but that's where, coming back to the last question as well, I hope to see in 10 years' time that we have a whole range of athletes sailing under the Team Australia Challenge umbrella, not just in America's Cup and the Women's America's Cup, but also the Greater America's Cup and other TP52, M32, match racing tour, Moth Squad, all that sort of stuff. I see that falling under that umbrella. So hopefully we can get that off the ground.
Oh, fantastic. Well, it starts with a thought, doesn't it? And it starts with that vision. And then you create momentum, and you've certainly done that and sharing with us tonight, and you've infused us too. So thank you for creating that new pathway. I believe there's something, we might have something that we can watch.
Yes. So, as you can tell, this is extremely exciting for me to be part of the Team Australia Challenge. And I really hope that it not only, inspires the high performing athletes out there, but also the rest of Australia to jump on board and be part of the Team Australia campaign. So, let's watch to see what it's actually all about.
One of the great moments in sporting history.
This is going to be iconic. It's going to be history.
This campaign has the ability to transform women's sailing in Australia.
Amazing performance by the Australians.
A really unique opportunity for Australia to finally be able to fly our flag.
We've got the skills, the ambition, the resources and the talent to win for Australia.
And welcome to Spain.
Had to fight off Japan for a 10-minute winner-takes-all showdown on the final day.
So excited to be able to pioneer this for all Australian sailors. The AC40s are the most extreme boats on the planet.
The impact on the America's Cup was huge.
The new winner for the America's Cup.
We're building more than a campaign here, we're building a legacy.
This dream can really only be realised with the whole country's support.
So come on this journey with us. We really do believe we can win this, and we're really excited to share this opportunity with you. Now is the time.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Olivia, thank you. We would love to now invite all of our speakers to appear on screen so that we can ask some questions. Carolyn, the first question I have is for you. What is your #1 tip for improving racing skills? Can you share some coaching tips, please?
I think the first thing is to be comfortable in your boat handling skills and be comfortable with the speed in your boat, and that you can then focus on more the strategy and the tactics. So I guess breaking it down in different sections, and sailing is very much, any sailing you do is very much like a cake or a puzzle with a lot of different pieces. And in my view, it's almost impossible to sail a perfect race. There's always something in a piece of the puzzle or the cake that you're not going to get right. But by breaking it down into different pieces and working step by step. And I think especially with that is not skipping any steps, and where the basics and the fundamentals are really, really important. So to not try and trip, but to really take it slowly and make sure that your fundamentals, your basics are really solid before you take the next step.
Yeah, beautiful sound advice. Thank you. Nick, one for you, if I may. What skills or training do you need to get into sailing journalism? And how do you see your next role or the industry evolving over the next 5 to 10 years? So the first question was, what skills or training do you need to get into sailing journalism?
Well, I think that's a really good question. To get into journalism, you just have to be passionate about writing and have good writing skills. Some journos, most journos I know came through the old system, which was cadet. And, the older journos, I was with Rob Mundell yesterday, so cadet, and then you worked your way up through the paper. That doesn't happen anymore. Usually what you would do is have a journalism degree. I did a public relations and advertising degree double. And then I did postgrad marketing and psychology masters in that as well, because, I was trying to decide what to do with my life. But I think if you do any degree, it teaches you to write properly. And then if you're passionate about something and you choose that you want to write about it, then that's probably all you actually need to be a journalist in sailing, because there's a lot of people who write about sailing. There's not a lot of people who are trained in journalism or PR or marketing that are doing a lot of work in sailing at the moment, because it's the same as the whole sailing industry. We're top heavy. We've got a lot of older people in the top spots and in the industry. And especially when I started doing Sailor Girl, I was one of few females that was getting really involved with filming or photography, and we were also the minority. So I think that's changing. If you come at something with full speed and just put yourself in the way of it as well, then that's probably half the battle.
Helps significantly. Absolutely. Yeah. And just super quick, how do you see your role or the industry evolving in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, I think 5 years ago we thought that the online space wasn't going to change that much, but it's changing again, and it's changing all the time. So I don't have a crystal ball, and I can't really help you with that. But I think that people want to see more of what's behind the scenes. And what I really started to do with Sailor Girl was to interview sailors and to try and get back to those heroic roots, because, you know, the most famous sailor still is John Bertrand, and so he deserves to be, and he should be, and he's a really good friend of mine. But how do we create other heroes that people want to follow, which will open up the mainstream's mind to the fact that sailing is an incredibly athletic sport that requires not only physicality, but mental aptitude, endurance, you know, agility. It's just the most insane sport out there, in my perspective. But it's also so good for all abilities, men, women, whether you're able-bodied or not. I see autistic kids go sailing. I've coached blind sailors. You know, it's one of those sports that is actually open and able to anybody. And if we could bring a bit more focus to that, then that's where I'm going. I see my role as being
absolutely. I'm hearing you say just getting behind the scenes, and yes, I love that. Kelly and Tanya, one for you, if I may. What are some of the common misconceptions about your role or your career in sailing? Common misconceptions.
That's a good one. That's a really good question.
You're engineers, you're female, and you're in sailing.
I guess, I mean, it's not, I don't know so much a misconception, but it's definitely not your kind of, I guess, traditional, maybe career path. Like, I think to end up where we are for women, it's more of a, like, you have to have kind of actively, I guess, researched or stumbled or kind of chosen to end up in engineering, and particularly sailing engineering. That's a misconception so much, but
yeah. I don't know. I think maybe it's not a misconception, but just the hardest thing is there's not a lot of visibility of women in engineering at this level. So like for me especially, I didn't even know that this was a potential career path until I stumbled upon it. And yeah, I think for a lot of people, when they find out, you know, what I do for a living, they kind of have like a shocked reaction, because it's just it's not really something that you think of as being a potential career path for engineering, but especially for women in engineering, because there's just not a lot of visibility in that space.
I think that's beautifully answered. Absolutely beautifully answered. Thank you. Michelle, love to hear, please, from you. What tips or advice do you have for getting more women sailing involved at the club level?
I would say probably just say yes to everything that comes along. So when somebody says, would you like to come out with me today? Just say yes. There's loads of ways that you can learn, I love reading. There's heaps of resources you can read. There's heaps of Australian sailing website resources you can read. Alistair will be happy I said that. Ask people around you. Ask people at your club. Just be really open and really proactive. And I guess, same as what the other ladies have said before, don't let these opportunities slip by. So say yes.
Nice. Fantastic. And I have one question for all of you, if I may. And I'm super happy for anyone to kick off. What do you consider to be the biggest challenge in your role? And I'm going to add a little air and say the biggest opportunity. So the biggest challenge and the biggest opportunity in your role. So Michelle, you're off speaker, so you go first.
All right. Well, I'd say probably for me, the biggest challenge is just juggling the hours. It's not a typical 9 to 5, Monday to Friday role. But, you know, there's pros and cons that come with that. And if you're going to be working over a weekend, you may as well be doing something really cool with some really cool people that are having lots of fun. And so, yes, I just try to balance that out by making sure I have time with my family as much as I can around that.
Perfect. Thank you. Carolyn, for you, the biggest challenge and the biggest opportunity?
I think a challenge for us as well. We're basically sailing around the world. We spend a lot of time overseas, being in Australia, New Zealand, and that's actually something I've learned to appreciate now being originally Dutch, but now living in Australia, is the distance for sailors, for anything sport related, going overseas, and you don't just come back home for a week and then go again, which is something that the Europeans can very easily do. So just having spent 2.5 months, almost 3 months overseas, myself and the squad, is actually quite challenging. And at times finding that balance is, when do you come home? When do you spend time overseas? How do you spend that time overseas? A long haul flight is very tiring. You can potentially get sick, so you don't want to do that a week before a main event starts. So it's finding that balance in between spending time at home and spending time away from home, doing your sport, doing the sailing. So I think that's definitely the biggest challenge. And the biggest opportunity I see within the squad here in Australia, in the Ilka 6 squad, is that we have such great potential. We have 4 girls in the squad now who are all very, very competitive. They've all in the top 10 of the world. It's a huge opportunity to see them grow, to work together, to give them the support, to be on this journey with them. At the same time, a challenge in that is going to be having to choose one of them, because in sailing, in Olympic sailing, only 1 rep per country, per nation. But at the same time, that is the opportunity, the fact that the girls are working together and lifting each other to a higher level, being very competitive, very supportive of each other at the same time. But it's, I think, the one that in the end gets selected to go to the Olympic Games. I think all the others are very deserving of a piece of that as well, because they have helped that sailor, that one athlete, to get to that position, and also it being quite a young squad still. There's many opportunities to come in the coming years. So yeah, very, very exciting times ahead for the squad.
Yeah, thank you. Wonderful. Olivia, one challenge and one opportunity, please.
I think the challenge for Olympic sailors and anyone, at the top of their game, whether it be sport, business, or anything that you're doing, is being too hard on yourself, trying to strive for that perfectionist result when it's actually probably not achievable. I know I fall victim of this, and I, at the Olympic test event, just prior to the Worlds, had a little, a couple of brain fades and an internal battle where I was putting a lot of pressure on myself, and by no means did any of my best sailing come out at all. And so I think I then came home, the battle that Carolyn was just talking about. I spent 8 weeks overseas, and then I came home for 10 days, and it wasn't much, but it was exactly what I needed. So, I think switching that kind of mentality and having the space and being okay with, our team psychologist always says to me, you've just got to be kinder to yourself. So as much as I hate him saying that, it makes sense at times. So that for me is one of the biggest challenges coming up. But the opportunity on the flip side is that I get to do what I love every day. I work as well. I'm paying a couple of mortgages and have, all sorts of things in between. And the sailing time for me is that I get to go out on the water and forget about the rest. I get to just go and sail and enjoy it for what it is. And I think that's a huge opportunity. Is if you're loving what you're doing, you're gonna see the gains and see the performance in that. So that is my key message.
Terrific. We look forward to seeing what happens over the next 8 to 10 months, and certainly Paris in 2024. Team New Zealand, challenge and opportunity.
It's a good one. Yeah, I think Probably the biggest challenge is, working kind of on the cutting edge of sailing technology, is that a lot of what we're trying to do, nobody's done before, which can be quite daunting and quite a difficult task. But in that, there's also just a lot of opportunity for learning and growing and expanding your skill set, and kind of seeing what you're capable of.
Yeah, I think I have kind of a similar challenge of like it's definitely not an easy job. Like a lot of most days I end up trying to do something that I've never done before and I have no idea what to do, and I'm kind of frantically Googling how to write the code. But then the kind of opportunity side of it, I think it's very cool that kind of, I guess, unlike a lot of engineering, at least careers where you might not really get to see the outcome, is that we've got quite a short, I guess, design cycle, or, when we're creating performance numbers from the boat, you create something one day, at the moment gets sent to Barcelona, they sail with it, and you can completely change kind of how they sail the boat. So I think that's a very cool short-term thing of being able to see, the effect of all your hard work.
Oh, instant impact. Fantastic. Gosh, that's motivating, isn't it? Thank you, Team Emirates New Zealand. Nick, I hope your voice will take us to one last question. Challenge and opportunity.
I'll try and be brief. Challenge, especially with Sailor Girl, it didn't exist before I started it. So, and it's a small business. So the work comes down to me, which means that, or me, or my partner, or my dad. I'm really lucky that I have that support. But so the challenge is that you never stop working. You're always working, and you're always on. And so I'm very, very lucky that the way that I set up my business was that it was an Olympic campaign as well, because I had no budget to start with. So I got the best sales or cameras that I could, and then I did a bit more work, and then I, got new foils or a new boat or so I was lucky that I had that breeding and that, versatility and the ability to move when things shifted. I think you learn as an athlete. So that the challenge of being an athlete was the opportunity in my business, but the main opportunity in pushing through all of these roadblocks from all my different pathways is that I have family all around the world, and the opportunities to meet and learn from people and get involved with their own stories and their own pathways is just so rewarding. Like from this weekend when I was at Ladies of the Sea Regatta, and there was this Newcastle Yacht Club team who last year they didn't know what upwind was and downwind was, and I watched them absolutely nail a start on Sunday, and it was bliss. They stuffed up their first tack, but they got a start done, and it was like, yes, gains. And that's why I love sailing, because the opportunities all the way through are amazing.
Thank you.
Wendy, could I have a crack at that question too, please?
Oh, Alistair, you are very welcome. Challenge and opportunity.
I know we're running late, but
it's okay.
I think I'll put the opportunity first. The greatest opportunity is equality of participation. And the greatest challenge to that is how damn slow the wheels turn. When I think about my company, Monster, which is an engineering-based firm, which is very male-dominated from the past, and the fact that nobody ever leaves, the company, it takes so long for that change to take place. And then I think, and so my management team and my board is very male-dominated. I then think of the Board of Australian Sailing, which has this fantastic built-in mechanism where the board changes over rapidly. You only get an 8-year maximum term. So somebody like me, I can come along and I can really engineer change because you're bringing new faces in compulsorily. And that's been fantastic, because we look and go, we're getting more and more, we want more and more women on this board. And so we created it, and it happens. And I'm so thrilled that we have, as I said earlier, 5 women and 4 men on our board. I think that's wonderful. So I think that's the greatest frustration to me, is how slowly things turn. Yeah. So I'd just like to finish by coming back to what Olivia said. And my word of advice to all of you is break those doors down. Thank you.
Alistair, thank you. Sue, I know that you'd like a few words before I close. So over to Sue from Australian Sailing.
Thank you, Wendy, and thank you for your question tonight. I'm sorry if we didn't get to your question, but we will be recording tonight and sending that out to everyone. So thank you, and a big thank you to you, Wendy, for emceeing tonight. You've done a fabulous job, so thank you very much. And thank you to all the speakers for sharing your amazing journeys and your insights. I'm in complete awe. Thank you for all you do for women sailing. It is truly fantastic, and you are all truly inspirational. I just want to say, if you have been inspired, please go onto the SheSails website and have a look at all the careers that all the women tonight are doing, and also some more careers as well that you can do in the sailing industry for our Women in Sailing series. So please have a look on our SheSails website. Also, we heard tonight from Nick and Olivia just how valuable mentoring is, not only in being mentored, but also the benefits of being a mentor. So I ask you, if for one thing, if you do tonight, please go back to your clubs and reach out and share your knowledge and experience with someone who's less experienced than you. Or if you are new, go out and seek someone and just ask them to give you some advice. Anyone in your club, at your next regatta, just go and ask them your advice and grab those opportunities that you can. I think, as Michelle said, just say yes and go to your club and champion women sailing and support each other. Find out who your SheSails rep is, introduce yourself, see if there's a SheSails network group, get on that, take on that leadership role. Grab as many opportunities as you can. If we are going to really change and knock on those doors and break those doors down, as Alistair says, we need everyone of all genders helping us get more women into sailing and girls. Michelle,
thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'm just going to say we'll be holding another event early next year just to talk about all the sort of great SheSail events and programs that are out there and sharing those with everyone. And so just to say again, thank you everyone for tonight. It's been amazing. Good luck in all your careers. Good luck to Olivia and Carolijn in Paris and Team Australia in Barcelona, and to Kelly and Tanya for Team New Zealand. And just hand back to Wendy to close the conference.
So thank you so much. You've just done it absolutely beautifully. For me, listening to all of the stories, all of the pathways, the opportunities that are afforded to us, whether it is at the club or it's in performance or it's in roles that are associated with sailing. Thank you for what you do, speakers. Thank you for the support you give to sailing. You afford us that opportunity to walk through that door. On that note, we're safely back in harbour for another year. I look forward to what this year brings in SheSails. Get involved, as Sue said, find out what's happening, and I will see you probably as a participant next year, 2024, watching the Olympics with great interest. Good night from us at SheSails.